I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson, shot and killed in cold blood on the streets of New York on video. Yet, there's a big movement to free his alleged killer, Luigi Mangione. Here's the story. A shocking targeted murder in the streets of New York City. UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson was in New York for a big investor meeting. The meeting was scheduled to begin at 8 a.m. at the Hilton Hotel. Thompson was staying across the street at another hotel. At around 6:45 a.m., he left his room and crossed the street. That's when the suspect approached him from behind, shooting him 3 times and killing him. After a 6-day manhunt, this man, 26-year-old Luigi Mangione, was arrested at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. And now prosecutors are putting all their evidence together, from surveillance images of the alleged killer to ballistics gathered at the scene and the so-called ghost gun Mangione was carrying when he was arrested, to fingerprints and the various writings discovered by police. Meanwhile, the reaction to this assassination has also taken an unexpected turn, as many people on social media and at the courthouse are putting their support behind Mangione and villainizing the victim, UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson, who was shot in cold blood and left behind his wife and children. This case took a very unexpected turn, and I was not anticipating it at all, which is the support that this accused murderer has. It's unusual. Now, I say it's unusual, but then, we have the Karen Reed case where she has tens of thousands of supporters. I mean, people coming to the courthouse for pretrial hearings. I mean, what we've seen in Dedham, Massachusetts, it was extremely unusual, but now we're seeing it again. But there is one big difference. With Karen Reed, I understand what's going on, because all those supporters believe she's innocent. They believe that she didn't do it, that she's being framed. That's not the case here. I want you to take a look at some of the folks showing up to support Luigi Mangione.
Corporate greed, we must fight. Healthcare is a human right. Throw our lives by denial. Put the system on trial. UnitedHealthcare only covers 20% of its radiation. Innocent until proven guilty. Innocent until proven guilty.
And while the slogan is similar to the Karen Reed slogan, right? Free Karen Reed, free Luigi. The people, again, who want Karen Reed free believe that she is innocent, has been framed, and that someone else is responsible and is covering it up and framing her at the same time. The supporters of Luigi Mangione, I think they believe he did it. I think that's part of the equation here. Not that he didn't do it, but that he did do it. Which brings me to the first question in my investigation tonight. Why is there so much support for Luigi Mangione? I mean, this is a case, there's some strong evidence. I mean, just comparing to other cases and other trials, some strong evidence. He's presumed innocent, I get it. Let's try to answer this question. Joining me, spokesperson for a legal defense fund for Mangione, Jamie Peck, is with us, and licensed and clinical psychologist, Dr. Jamie Zuckerman. Thank you both for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm going to call Jamie Peck, Jamie, and Dr. Jamie, Dr. Jamie. So it's easy for us to keep track of who's going here. I want to take a look at this legal fund, because this is unreal. I mean, this is jaw-dropping. The goal was $1 million, and there's already, the last time I checked, $612,000 that have been raised. So Jamie, explain to me, why is there so much support? The people who are donating, what are they saying? What are your thoughts? Why are you supporting this defendant, this accused murderer?
Sure. So I think what this moment in our history and what this gesture has revealed is that there is a massive amount of class-based anger and rage in this country, specifically at the way that our broken health insurance system currently functions, where thousands and thousands of people each year are killed or simply made to live in fear or having their lives ruined by these private for-profit insurance companies, of which Brian Thompson was the CEO. Now, the way that these companies make money is they take money for providing quote unquote insurance, and they deny care at whatever chance they get, whatever excuse they can use. During the tenure of Brian Thompson, an AI system was introduced by UnitedHealthcare to evaluate claims that, according to a recent lawsuit, got it wrong 90% of the time. And that is just how these companies operate. So I think the massive groundswelling of support and of donations flowing into our fund, the average donation of which is $20 some odd, adding up via thousands and thousands of donations to over 600 grand at this point, just goes to show you how sick and tired people are of this system that preys on human life to enrich the profits of shareholders.
Okay, Dr. Jamie. So based on that, and obviously, it seems there's some, it's almost like an eye for an eye. There's a sense of what's the word I'm looking for, Dr. Jamie?
Justice. I think there's a couple things here. I think first is people are able to relate to the frustration. Many of us ourselves or people that we know have dealt with healthcare insurance companies before, have argued with them, I'm sure. And so I think generally speaking, people are able to relate to the frustration. Where I think the line becomes blurred, however, is that it's almost as if, the victim in this is viewed as a symbol and not as an individual person who had a family, who was a father and a husband. And so I think that's where the disconnect lies with this, because I think people are, yes, relating to the frustration, but then almost watching this play out as if it's playing out on TV and not a reality that somebody was actually murdered, because he's not a symbol, he's a person. So I think that's kind of the psychology behind that and what we're seeing.
Jamie, is there any sympathy for the family that is left behind? Brian Thompson's children, wife, if he had siblings, is there any sense of that coming through, or is he viewed at all as a person, or is it the same as blowing up a building?
Of course, I think it's sad anytime someone has their life cut short by another person. And we have seen a number of messages that are sad about that aspect of it. But I think we need to put this in perspective, because Brian Thompson did not care that he was depriving people of their loved ones by the thousands. So I think the fact that people might have less empathy for him in this situation than maybe you think they should, I think that goes a long way towards explaining it, right? I think most people view these things as a matter of maybe put it in a little bit more context, right? If somebody kills a serial killer, that act is evaluated differently than if somebody kills a child or someone like that. So I think we need to look at it in that context. We also need to look at it in terms of history, right? America has an incredibly bloody and violent history, and unfortunately, that is often the only thing that brings about real change. You want to talk about the Civil War, right? We had to kill a lot of people had to die in order to end slavery. But I think most people are happy that we don't have chattel slavery anymore. Of course, there is an exception for people who are in prison. But yeah, the arc of history, as it will, bends towards justice. And I think a lot of people who are donating to the fundraiser feel like they are part of a historical process to take back the power from the people who are profiting off of them in their most vulnerable moments and turning their lifeblood into profits of shareholders.
Dr. Jamie, we have only a few seconds left here. Do you think this will change anything in the way the public perceives this overriding issue, that it seems to be the reasoning why they've elevated Luigi Mangione to a heroic status?
I don't. I think that this kind of modern day Robin Hood image we have of him, combined with, this view of this affluent, attractive male, overrides any of the existing issues that were there to begin with, which is a broken healthcare system. I think that it's the focus is now going in a different direction that I'm assuming was not his intention, but he wanted to make a statement. He wanted to spearhead this thing, but I don't think that it's going to change anything at all.
Dr. Jamie is going to stay with us. Jamie Peck, appreciate your time and giving us your viewpoint, because it's something that I think everyone who doesn't think the same way you do or some of these other folks think, we can understand where it's coming from. So we appreciate it. Thanks so much. All right, coming up next, how wealthy is Luigi Mangione's family?
That is completely out of touch and is an insult to the intelligence of the American people.
2 innocent children put to bed,
only to awaken to the sound of gunfire.
Now a father stands trial accused of shooting his own kids in their bunk beds, killing one.
I hope that this individual feels the full weight of the criminal justice system and never sees the light of day.
Court TV takes you inside this tragic case,
as a jury must now decide the fate of this father.
That is completely out of touch and is an insult to the intelligence of the American people and its lived experience.
Luigi Mangione was a little unhinged in that moment. He's been much more calm in his subsequent appearances in court, well-dressed, loafers, the whole 9 yards. So one of the most shocking parts about this whole thing is when we found out who he was and where he came from. To me, that's another part of all this. Luigi Mangione, before he became an accused killer. Elizabeth Worthington from Scripps News takes a closer look for us.
The Mangione family's Baltimore area roots begin in the city's Little Italy neighborhood in 1925, and humble beginnings they were. Nicholas Mangione Sr. was only 11 when his father, an Italian immigrant who couldn't read or write, passed away. Nick, the family patriarch, grew up poor but was determined to make his own way in the world. A World War II Navy vet and later self-made millionaire, he told the Baltimore Sun in a 1995 profile that he saw himself as a true American success story. He and his wife Mary raised 10 children together, and by the time he passed away in 2008, there were 37 grandchildren. One of those grandchildren is Luigi.
Luigi Nicholas Mangione. Luigi.
The young Mangione attended Gilman School, an all-boys private prep school in Baltimore, where he graduated in 2016 as the valedictorian.
Parents here today. First off, sending us to Gilman was far from a small financial investment. I'd like to personally thank each of you for sending your sons here.
Maryland attorney Thomas Moronic Jr., who has known the Mangione family for 20 years, sheds light on the prestige granted to a Gilman grad.
So if you went to a place like Loyola or Gilman, there's a certain esteem respect that's built in for going there. So to be the valedictorian there is really an accomplishment.
From Gilman, he went to the Ivy League, the University of Pennsylvania, where he earned 2 computer science degrees. After graduating, he worked in tech for a video game company and a car buying site. And sometime before January of 2022, he moved to Hawaii. Photos from his social media show him in Hawaii looking fit and happy. The spokesperson for the owner of the house Mangione was staying at told the Associated Press that he was, quote, widely considered to be a great guy. There were no complaints. There was no sign that might point to these alleged crimes they're saying he committed. One of the unsolved mysteries of that period in his life concerns Mangione's back. His social media shows a photo of what appears to be a spine stabilization surgery that Mangione underwent on the mainland for back pain. After he returned to Hawaii, friends and family stopped hearing from him.
I think that the lost contact suggests sort of a rogue situation where this is somebody from a privileged background who went rogue.
What allegedly happened next in the life of Luigi Mangione shocked the nation. At 6:45 the morning of December 4th, police say Mangione walked up behind UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson and shot him dead with a silenced 9mm pistol. Then calmly got on an e-bike, rode to a bus station many miles away, and headed to Pennsylvania.
We're following 2 major breaking news stories this hour concerning the manhunt for the gunman behind the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
The manhunt dominated headlines for days, accompanied by a disturbing outpouring of support for the murder in comment sections and across social media, until finally, in a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, a break.
He matches the description of the identification we've been looking for. He's also in possession of several items that we believe will connect him to this incident.
Shell cases found at the scene reportedly were marked with the words deny, defend, and depose, echoing criticisms of health insurance practices, pointing to a possible motive. A manifesto police say Mangione wrote, published by investigative reporter Ken Klippenstein on Substack, read in part, quote, I do apologize for any strife or traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. That anger can be seen again as deputies walked him into a hearing.
And completely out of touch. And insult the intelligence of the American people and lived experience.
What lived experience Mangione was referring to is unclear. His own life as the highly successful scion of one of Baltimore's most prominent families had been charmed, at least until Hawaii.
When I heard it was a Mangione, I was just really surprised because that's just the last family you would ever associate with something like this.
And that brings us to the next question in our investigation. And it's about the family. How wealthy is his family? Private school, Ivy League. Seemed to live a pretty charmed life prior to becoming an accused murderer. Joining me in New York, Scripps News Group national correspondent Alex Miller. Alex, thanks so much. How would you describe the wealth of this family?
Well, they're known to be wealthy, but they're also known to be very generous. It's essentially the American dream. Not only did he go to the Gilman School, which you just heard about. I mean, the Gilman School is more than $20,000 for pre-K alone. By the time you get all the way up to high school, you're spending nearly $40,000 a year on school. I grew up in Maryland. It is known as a prestigious school. If you go to Gilman, it means you have a stellar reputation. And his grandfather, Nicholas, is essentially a self-made multi-millionaire who started from nothing in this tiny little 1-bedroom apartment and was able to become this real estate developer who owned country clubs, golf courses, radio stations, and nursing homes. And then not only did they have all of this money from all of those different properties, but they also had a family foundation. And while we don't necessarily know about the money, the wealth, dollar amount of the family, back in 2022, their taxes said that they had net assets of over $4 million just in their foundation. And they used the money in that foundation for hospitals, for nonprofit healthcare like St. Jude's, other Maryland institutions, which I find is so interesting about this story. You know, we're talking about a healthcare CEO being shot, and yet this family owns nursing homes. They supported hospitals. They supported all of these not-for-profit healthcare systems, not to mention the fact that they are very involved across the political spectrum. His cousin is a state delegate. But all of this to say, his family has been really quiet for as wealthy as they are and as connected as they are. I was in court on Friday, and I've been in that courtroom so many times. There's a special spot for the family, and as far as I could tell, the family was not there.
Wow. Wow. And, you know, all this wealth, yet people who come from a lot less are donating to his defense fund. They're going to raise $1 million for his defense. You're defending a guy that comes from incredible wealth. And I look at him versus the victim in this case, right? So Mangione's born into wealth and prestige and everything else. And then Brian Thompson was a guy who came from very, you know, very moderate upbringing and made himself. I mean, it seems in this case that the killer and his family is worth more than the victim, yet everyone is perceiving this as, you know, taking down the big guy. It's really interesting the way that dynamic has played out.
Oh, it absolutely is. But I mean, for as wealthy as his family is, they haven't said whether they're going to be supporting him. Obviously, physically in the courtroom, they have not been there, but they also aren't necessarily supporting him financially. I think that's why his lawyers have set up this website so that the people who have shown such strong support will support him financially. But I think it is a good point, you know, that he is a private school educated, a private college educated, very intelligent young man, and yet his feelings, although I think a lot of his supporters would say because he is so well read and so well versed on the system, that is why he acted the way that he did. But, you know, I think the wealth only goes so far with the family. If they don't end up, you know, wanting to support him, he might as well have no money of his own.
Yeah, that is really surprising that the family, and this is a large family, like super large family, all the uncles, aunts, cousins, and everyone else. Alex Miller, appreciate it. Thank you so, so much. All right, folks, we got more to get to here. Coming up next, does anyone think he didn't do it? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. It looks like a simple case with strong evidence implicating Luigi Mangione, a young man who seemingly had no connection to the victim or UnitedHealthcare, and now is considered by some a hero for allegedly committing that murder. Here's the story. The arrest of 26-year-old Luigi Mangione for the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson answered one question, but has raised a whole bunch more. Mangione is accused of traveling by bus to New York City to assassinate Thompson, then escaping the city by foot, bike, cab, and bus. He ended up in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where he was arrested eating a hash brown at McDonald's. And when he was taken into custody, police seized many items he had in his possession. Thousands of dollars of cash, a ghost gun and silencer, a fake New Jersey ID, and a series of writings. All of this leading everyone to wonder how and why a young, smart, good-looking, and extremely wealthy Ivy Leaguer ended up locked up facing a potential death sentence. Okay, so when he's arrested, there's actually a rookie police officer who makes the arrest, and it's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. And you recall what a big story this was, and there was this huge manhunt. And take a listen to the rookie police officer who made the arrest and how easily he was able to ID the suspect.
So whenever we got on scene there, we were able to pretty much find where he was at in the restaurant. And as soon as he was wearing a blue medical mask. As soon as we pulled that down, or we asked him to pull it down, me and my partner and I recognized him immediately, just from what we saw in the media with photos, videos. We just didn't even think twice about it. We knew that was our guy, but he was very he was very cooperative with us, didn't really give us too many issues. Once we found out his identity, we took it from there.
Well, you heard the officer, right? Like, all of us knew what he looked like. This was such a huge story, and there were photos and videos, surveillance, all of that, which brings us to the next question in our investigation. Does anyone think he didn't do it? Usually that's what these cases are about. Well, he didn't do it, somebody else did it. It couldn't have been him. But does anyone really think that he did not do this? Joining me, New York criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Randy Zellin, and former NYPD officer, retired Nassau County Lieutenant and Commanding Officer Mike Gould. Great to see you both. I just want to refresh everyone's recollection, if you'll let me, by showing you some of the stills from some of the videos that were shown to the public and are part of the evidence in the case. First, the actual shooting, right? The actual shooting is caught on video. You see a backpack, you see the weapon, you kind of see the size of the individual responsible, you see what he's wearing. After the shooting, you see another video of a suspect wearing the same thing, riding a bicycle away from the scene. Then you've got other video preceding it from Starbucks. And yeah, there's a mask on, but you kind of see the backpack, you see what he's wearing. And then he also was at the hostel where he stayed and was flirting with someone and took down the mask for the flirting. And there we see him with two different outfits on, but you see his face pretty clearly. And then, of course, what we just saw, which was when he was arrested at McDonald's. There's a lot of evidence. Mike Gould, how would you describe the evidence in this case?
Well, in one word, it's overwhelming evidence. I mean, very few homicides are we going to see with a literally smoking gun video of the assassination taking place, a contemporaneous timeline of events. This isn't a cold case that we think happened 3 years ago. Every step was almost digitally followed right up to the apprehension, where he has the gun with him. And he has what you're calling a manifesto. I see it as a confession. So I think the evidence itself is overwhelming, unless you go to a really kind of bizarre conspiracy theory that the police did. There's DNA evidence. I mean, it's an abundance of evidence. So I think it's overwhelming. You know,
they also allegedly caught him with the weapon, this so-called ghost gun.
Right, with the weapon. So, I mean, this is I've never seen this much evidence, and plenty of people are convicted, but far less evidence. But I think it's now in the hands of the prosecution. It's the prosecutor's case to screw up at this point, I think.
Okay, so we've got circumstantial evidence. We've got some direct evidence, right? Video of the actual murder. We've got the so-called confession as well. Randy Zellin, what is this trial going to look like? I mean, we cover trials here on Court TV all the time, right? And usually it's like, well, somebody else did it, he has an alibi, or you really can't tell, they can't prove it, this is merely a circumstantial case. You can't use any of those lines.
Well, I think the initial question really has to be, is there going to be a trial? The government, and there are two here, you've got the New York County District Attorney, you've got the Department of Justice, and there is no double jeopardy here because of something called dual sovereignty. You have two sovereigns. So do not be surprised if suddenly the death penalty becomes a bargaining chip for a global plea bargain. But to answer your question and to be fair, how is this case tried? Well, this case may be, short of O.J. Simpson, the greatest example of jury nullification in a generation, because we see the throngs of people who view him as a hero. And it's going to be awfully difficult for a prosecutor to ensure that all 12 of those jurors, that not a single one of them may not be on that jury for that purpose of vindicating this young man as a hero and either convincing the other 11 to acquit, or that one holdout creates a mistrial and then another mistrial And suddenly, all of a sudden, this case completely goes up in smoke.
Okay, I want to take a listen to that confession, the manifesto. Ken Klippenstein on Substack, an independent journalist, got his hands on this, and it's been confirmed by law enforcement. Here's our producer, Tommy Lopez, reading it.
To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No. The reality is, these have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed. For example, Rosenthal, Moore, decades ago. The problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty.
Mike Gould, why do you think he did this? Was it just about he wanted all these people to love him, to see him as some sort of a hero, to make his life, noteworthy?
Yeah, sure, Vinny. So our history is vigilantism, anti-establishment vigilantism. So we've always had this. Whatever people are going to view him as Robin Hood. He's a good-looking guy, charismatic. But so was Ted Bundy. And Randy brought up a very good point. He used O.J. Simpson. But I recall a little earlier, John Gotti in New York City, right here in New York City, they called him the Teflon Don. People loved John Gotti. His neighbors loved him. That was the safest street in Queens where John Gotti lived. So there's something, and with O.J. Simpson, Charles Manson, and they all, and John Gotti, they all have, and this kid has one thing in common. They all have very charismatic personalities. So that you can be a sociopath and good looking at the same time. So, yeah, I can't tell you what's going on in his mind. I agree with Randy that the death penalty will be a bargaining chip, and this thing may never go to trial. I think the New York City, the politicians, I've never seen a perp walk like that in my life, where it looked like a scene of a bad movie when they helicoptered him in and the mayor was...
They generally don't do that. Randy, we're out of time, but just a one-word answer from you. Do you think he wants to testify, to talk to the world from the witness stand?
Hell yes.
All right. We'll be speaking about this again. That's 2 words. That's fine, though. Randy Zellin, great to see you. Thanks so much. Mike Gould, always a pleasure. Still to come, will men and women see this case differently?
In the nearly 2 weeks since Mr. Thompson's killing, we have seen a shocking and appalling celebration of cold-blooded murder. Social media has erupted with praise for this cowardly attack.
911 emergency.
Can you get someone over here now?
Well, okay, what does he look like?
He's O.J. Simpson. I think you know his record.
They were broken out, and he was still madly in love with her.
He didn't think that he was a batterer. And I said, hey, man, you hit her. You're a batterer.
This is a murder case. They felt it had nothing to do with the murders.
Trial and Error. Why did O.J. win? A Court TV original series. New episode Sunday night, 8 Eastern and Pacific. Only on Court TV.
Outside 100 Center Street, Luigi Mangione's supporters made it known they're there.
Those cheers heard inside the courtroom as Judge Gregory Caro set motion deadlines in April and May for the defense and for the prosecution. His next hearing is set for June 26th, but it was Mangione's presence himself, wearing a collared shirt and green cable knit sweater with khakis, covered by a bulletproof vest and shackles around his wrists and ankles that drew the ire of the defense. His attorney, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, imploring the judge to remove them. He initially agreed, but after protest from the court officer, Caro denied the request. Agnifilo says it's just one of the many examples of Mangione being treated unfairly.
I don't understand what this show of danger is for. When I go visit Luigi at MDC in Brooklyn, I sit with him. He is unshackled. He walks around freely in the visiting area.
Okay, I want to show you something. Some images of the folks who showed up to support Luigi Mangione at the courthouse the last time he's there. Notice the scarf. We've got some more images to show you as well. And as we look at these photos and these images and these pictures, see if you notice a little bit of a pattern or some sort of a common denominator to the people who are showing up to support Luigi Mangione. What is it? What do they have in common? Oh, they're all women. They're all young women. Brings me to the next question in my investigation. It's about the trial. Will men and women see this case differently? As it looks like the women are seeing Luigi a little differently than some of the guys are. Joining me, jury consultant James McGarity and licensed clinical psychologist Dr. Jamie Zuckerman. Thank you both. Now, one of the reasons I bring up this question and why I'm getting some vibes that are similar to, and the circumstances are very different, but I'm getting similar vibes to the Menendez brothers. Take a listen to what one of the jurors told me from the Menendez trial.
I was on Eric's jury, and we had 6 men and 6 women. And we made the mistake of the first thing we did was we took a show of hands as to whether we thought Eric was guilty of murder. And 6 men thought he was guilty of murder, and 6 women thought he was guilty of manslaughter. So we had a lot to overcome in the next several weeks that we were deliberating, and we never did overcome it either.
Straight down gender lines in that case. They saw same case differently. James McGarity, do you think gender for jurors in this case is a big factor, and will men and women see it differently?
You know, Vinny, I don't think it's going to be gender alone. I think another factor that we have to take into account is the big anti-corporation profile that is going to play into jurors' minds. Because yes, there's a ton of pictures of, younger, attractive women who see the Luigi appeal, but a lot of jurors on his side are going to share his anti-corporate perceptions, and some of them are going to be male.
Dr. Jamie Zuckerman, we spoke with, the folks raising money for Luigi Mangione, and that has a lot to do with who the victim is, not so much him. But then when push comes to shove, you go to the courthouse, you go on social media, it's overwhelmingly women who are much more passionate. At least that's what I've seen and heard. Why is that, or is that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, we see more women in support. That doesn't necessarily mean that there are more women in support. This is just what we're seeing on social media. But I do think there's an age component to this. I think that people maybe 40 and younger tend to view him in a more positive, favorable light. But as far as women, what we're seeing at least is this idea that because he's attractive and because he has this kind of Robin Hood complex that we hear, that somehow his actions are more noble. And that's kind of what we're seeing and kind of the rallying that we're seeing around him.
James, I mean, just a little thing that you pick up. We know when it was Menendez brothers, it was about the sweaters. With Luigi Mangione, it's about the loafers. Everyone was just talking about the loafers when there was this image of his shackled ankles, but, you know, no socks with the cool loafers on. Do you think jurors will see him? Because when I compare him to the victim in this case, right? The victim, self-made, right? Came from very modest beginnings in the Midwest. I think he's originally from Iowa, and you know, was making a lot of money at the end, but sort of worked and built his way there. Whereas the defendant was born into it. Does class and you know, where you are financially have anything to do with the way people will see this case and this defendant, and how would they see it?
I think there definitely will be. I think there's going to be a little bit of cognitive dissonance going on. I think a lot of jurors will see Luigi in this really, you know, expensive outfit, the expensive loafers, and a lot of them, again, will agree with his anti-corporate attitudes, and they'll look at him as a whole, and they'll kind of say, you know, I agree with the way he thinks. I agree with the way I really like the way he's dressing. He can't be evil. I can't see him and, you know, digest him as an evil person. Whereas it's going to be very easy for a lot of jurors who have that young profile, who are the young jurors who love Luigi. It's going to be a lot easier to see him, the older gentleman, as, you know, a bad character. He's made millions and millions of dollars. He's part of this big corporation that has taken advantage of people who need health care. And I think that's going to be a big dividing factor.
Dr. Jamie, as we talk about the public's reaction to all of this, are you surprised how passionate people are in support of him?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting this kind of reaction, at least not this large. We've seen this before in other situations where you've had somebody who, you know, a male who's dressed well and attractive, and we've seen this kind of response, but not to this scale. I was surprised by the scale of it, not necessarily by the reaction, but by how large it's been.
James, we're almost out of time. We have like 15 seconds left here. Who's the perfect juror for Mangione?
Liberal and have strong anti-corporate attitudes.
We shall see. We're hearing a lot of it. It's unreal. Thank you so much, James McGarity. Great to see you. Dr. Jamie Zuckerman.
Thank you.
Awesome analysis as well. Thank you both. All right. With all the very compelling circumstantial and direct evidence against Luigi Mangione, he actually has two potential defenses. One is just getting the evidence suppressed from the trial in a pretrial motion. So all that great evidence never gets in front of the jury. Or two, and this is what everyone's talking about, jury nullification by jurors who believe the killing was justified because they don't like the big health insurance companies. Both seem like long shots, but I've been shocked before. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.